Hello and welcome to another episode of today's GK. I am Pooja Dwivedi, and in this segment we are going to discuss objective questions to help you crack prelims. So let's begin with the practice question of last segment. What is the theme of India's 75th Independence Day? Nation first, always first, Atmanirbhar Bharat, healthcare first, India always first. So many of you have answered it correctly. The correct answer to this question is option A, that is nation first, always first. The theme of India's 75th Independence Day celebration was Nation First, Always First. India celebrated its 75th year of independence at the Red Fort, from where the Prime Minister addressed the nation. Moving forward, consider the following statements. Slender Loris is a nocturnal primate. Slender Loris is found in the tropical scrub and deciduous forests, and IUCN has listed Slender Loris as critically endangered, whereas they are listed under the Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act of India 1972. We have to select the correct statement. So, if we talk about Slender Loris, this is yes, a nocturnal primate. Okay, nocturnal means active in the night. Primate means, in zoological terms, the categories of tarsiers, apes, monkeys, humans, these are considered as primates. And yes, it is found in the tropical scrub and deciduous forest, that means between the two tropics, Tropic of Capricorn and Tropic of Cancer. Then, third statement is not correct because it is listed as endangered and not critically endangered in the IUCN Red List, whereas, yes, it is scheduled under Schedule 1. It is kept under Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act of India 1972. So, the correct answer to this question is option B, 1 and 2 only. The Kandavur Hills in the central Tamil Nadu's Karur district are home to the Kandavur Reserve Forest. These forests are home to the shy and reclusive Slender Loris, a species of primate. There is a conservation dilemma regarding these animals in the area currently. Slender Loris is a small, nocturnal primate commonly found in the tropical scrub and deciduous forest as well as the dense hedgerow plantations bordering farmlands of South India and Sri Lanka. Moving on, IUCN has listed them as endangered, whereas they are listed under the Schedule 1 of the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. Moving on, consider the following statements regarding SAMVAD program. The program is aimed at mental health outreach for children who are abandoned and orphaned. It is launched by the Ministry of Education, formerly the Ministry of Human Resource and Development, and it is listed by the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences, that is NIMHANS. We have to select the correct statement. If we talk about the SAMVAD program, this is much needed if we talk about the post-second wave of COVID, because many children, at least 1 million children, have lost at least one of their parent. So that is of course needed. But this doesn't come under the Ministry of Education. It comes under the Ministry of Women and Child Development. So, first is correct, second is incorrect, but third is correct. That it is led by NIMHANS. So the correct answer to this question is option C, 1 and 3 only. If we talk about recent times, the Ministry of Women and Child Development has launched the second phase of the SAMVAD program. The second phase was launched on the completion of 1 year of program. The program is aimed at mental health outreach of children who are abandoned and orphaned, child survivors of trafficking or in conflict with law. It is launched by the Ministry of Women and Child Development, and it is led by the National Institute of Mental Health and Neurosciences. Which of the following initiatives resulted in the adoption of the founding principles of the non-aligned movement, Brasilia Declaration, Bandung Conference, Nairobi Declaration, Vienna Convention. So, if we talk about non-aligned movement, that means to not take sides and stay neutral, in simple terms. And it was adopted by the Bandung Conference. It is a city in Indonesia. Okay, so the correct answer is option B, and the non-aligned movement was found during the Cold War as an organization of states that did not seek to formally align themselves with either the USA or the Soviet Union, which rooted for capitalism and socialism respectively, but sought to remain independent or neutral. The Bandung Conference that resulted in the adoption of the founding principles of non-aligned movement. It was held under the leadership of Joseph Broz Tito of Yugoslavia, Gamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt, Jawaharlal Nehru of India, 𝐸𝐿 Nkrumah of Ghana, and Sukarno of Indonesia. Moving on, consider the following statements. Permafrost is any ground that remains completely frozen For at least 10 years straight, the melting of permafrost causes the release of greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and methane into the atmosphere. We have to select the correct statement. So yes, whenever the permafrost, which has sequestered or absorbed greenhouse gases, whenever it will melt, it is supposed to release that into the atmosphere. That is, it is of utmost importance that it remains intact. So permafrost is any ground that remains completely frozen for 2 years consecutively and not 10 years. So the first statement is incorrect, the second is correct. The correct answer to this question is option B. Recently, scientists have found 2 nearly perfect preserved cave lion cubs in Siberia's permafrost, Russia. Permafrost is any ground that remains completely frozen for at least 2 years straight. As permafrost thaws, microbes begin decomposing this material, and this process releases greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide and methane into the atmosphere. Moving on, consider the following statements. Defense Testing Infrastructure Scheme seeks to boost domestic aerospace manufacturing, and the project under the scheme will be 100% funded by the central government. We have to select the correct statement. Now, this project, Defense Testing Infrastructure Scheme, it will boost the domestic aerospace manufacturing. This is correct. And this will not be 100% funded by the central government, but 75:25, where 75 will be the funding of 75% the funding from the central government, and 25 by a special purpose vehicle consisting of the contributions of the state government and the private entities. So, second is incorrect, the first is correct. The correct answer is option A, one only. Recently, in order to boost domestic defense and aerospace manufacturing, the Ministry of Defense has launched Defense Testing Manufacturing Scheme with an outlay of Rs 400 crore. The projects under the scheme will be provided with up to 75% government funding in the form of grants and aid, and the remaining 25% of the project cost will have to be borne by special purpose vehicle, constituents of which will be Indian private entities and state governments. Moving on, consider the following statements with respect to blue hydrogen. It constitutes India's bulk production. It is sourced from fossil fuels, and the byproducts are CO and CO2. We have to select the correct statement. Okay, blue hydrogen doesn't constitute the bulk production, but grey hydrogen does. Okay, so it's grey hydrogen. So first statement is incorrect. What is the difference between the two? That yes, in both grey hydrogen and in the production of both grey hydrogen and blue hydrogen, CO and CO2 specifically will be the byproduct. But in blue hydrogen, the carbon dioxide is sequestered. In grey hydrogen, it is not sequestered. It is let into the atmosphere. So we need to keep in mind, blue hydrogen is produced the same way as grey hydrogen. But when we talk about the sequestration of carbon dioxide, it is in blue hydrogen, so that it can be captured and stored and used for purposes in the future. So the first statement incorrect, the second is correct, and yes, it is sourced from fossil fuel. The second statement is correct. Second and third being correct, the correct answer is option B. In a push for India's energy security, Prime Minister in his Independence Day speech on Sunday announced a national hydrogen mission for the country. Hydrogen is the lightest and first element on the periodic table, and since the weight of hydrogen is less than air, it rises in the atmosphere and therefore rarely found in its pure form, that is H2. Now, hydrogen is a complex element if we talk about its presence on Earth. It is not found in pure matter. So, it can be found through water or through the production with the help of burning of fossil fuels and in hydrocarbons. And also, a standard temperature and pressure, hydrogen is a non-toxic, non-metallic, odorless, tasteless, colorless and highly inflammable diatomic gas. Blue hydrogen is sourced from fossil fuels and it has the byproducts carbon monoxide and dioxide, and byproducts are captured and stored, so better than grey hydrogen. Grey hydrogen constitutes the bulk of India's production. Moving on, consider the following statements with respect to United Nations Security Council. The most important function of the UNSC is maintaining peace and security at the international level, and it takes the lead in determining the existence of a threat to peace or act of aggression. The UNSC cannot impose diplomatic relations, severance, financial restrictions and penalties, blockades, and even collective military action if required. So we have to select the correct statement. So the first statement is definitely correct, that the most important function of the UNSC is to maintain peace and stability at the international level, and it takes the lead in determining the existence of threat to peace or act of aggression. But it can also impose diplomatic relations severance, that means to cut off diplomatic ties, and financial restriction, that is sanction and penalties, plus blockades and even collective military action. UNSC is that powerful. First statement is correct, second is incorrect. The correct answer to this question is option A, one only. The United Nations Security Council has called for an emergency meeting on Monday to discuss the rapidly deteriorating situation in Afghanistan amidst the Taliban occupation. This will be the second meeting on Afghanistan under India's presidency at the UNSC. It was established in 1945, the United Nations Security Council. It is one of the 5 principal organs of UN charged with the maintenance of international peace and security, also accepting new members to the United Nations and approving any changes to the UN Charter. Also very important that it is the only UN body with the authority to issue binding resolution to member states. And it comprises of 15 members, 5 permanent and 10 non-permanent. Moving on, the most important function of the UNSC is maintaining peace and stability and security at the international level. It takes the lead in determining the existence of a threat to peace or act of aggression. The UNSC can also impose diplomatic relations severance, financial restrictions and penalties, blockades and even collective military action if required. Moving on, consider the following countries: Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, Iran. So, which countries mentioned above share a border with Afghanistan? Afghanistan is a country that shares its borders with many countries. So, it is Uzbekistan, yes, Tajikistan also, and also Iran. We also have Turkmenistan, which shares its borders with Afghanistan but not Kyrgyzstan. So, the correct answer should be 1, 2, 4 and 5. That is option B. Okay, 1, 2, 4 and 5 only. Moving on, the Taliban has announced general amnesty for all Afghanistan government employees and asked them to return to work. Afghanistan, which is a landlocked multi-ethnic country located in the heart of South Central Asia, is bordered by Pakistan and India, to the east and south, to the west by Iran, and to the north by Central Asian states of Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. So, bordered by Iran, I am going in the clockwise direction: Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, India, Pakistan. Okay, let's move forward and talk about our next question. Consider the following statements with respect to Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana-Urban. The mission covers the entire urban area consisting of statutory towns, notified planning areas, development authorities, special area development authorities. It also includes industrial development authorities or any such authority under state legislation which is entrusted with the functions of urban planning and regulation. We have to select the correct statement. Both these statements are correct. The correct answer is option C, both 1 and 2. In a push for residential housing and infrastructure sectors, the government's Central Sanctioning and Monitoring Committee yesterday approved the construction of 16,488 houses under Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana-Urban. It was launched on 25th of June 2015, which intends to provide housing for all in urban areas by the year 2022 under Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs. The features address urban housing shortage among the urban poor, including the slum dwellers, by ensuring a pakka house to eligible urban poor. The mission covers the entire urban area consisting of statutory towns, notified planning area, development authorities, special area development authorities, also including industrial development authorities or any such authority under state legislation which is entrusted with the functions of urban planning and regulation. Moving on, consider the following statements with respect to National Gene Bank. The National Gene Bank was notified in 2001 and 2. The NGB has only 3 kinds of facilities, namely seed gene bank, cryogenic bank or cryogene bank, in vitro gene bank. We have to select the incorrect statement. The National Gene Bank, it was announced in the year 1996 and 1907. So, the first statement is incorrect. And this has 4 types of facilities along with seed gene bank, cryogene bank and in vitro gene bank. We have one more. Let's find out. So, both these are incorrect. The correct answer to this question is Option C, both 1 and 2. Agriculture Minister Narendra Singh Tomar inaugurated a revamped state-of-the-art National Gene Bank at the National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources in the Pusa complex. This is the world's second largest gene bank located in the national capital. It was set up in 1996 to preserve the seeds of plant genetic resources for future generations. The National Gene Bank was notified in the year 1996-97 and it is hosted by National Bureau of Plant Genetic Resources, New Delhi. The NGB has 4 kinds of facilities, namely Seed Gene Bank, Cryo Gene Bank, In Vitro Gene Bank and Field Gene Bank to cater to long-term as well as medium-term conservation. Moving on to the practice question. Consider the following statements. Sainik schools are under the administrative control of Ministry of Defence. All Sainik schools in the country will now be open for girls also. We have to select the correct statement. So, I hope you'll be answering it correctly in the comment segment. That's it for today. Tomorrow we shall meet again with another segment. Until then, stay updated and thank you so much for watching.